Hi, so today I'm going to guide you through the process of applying the armbands to the Torrens box top. This is a really unusual finish. It's not one that I've ever seen before. I kind of thought about it for a few days and came up with it, so I hope you find it fun and I hope you enjoy the finish. So it's a little bit different from any other armband application you might have seen before. At this point in time, you will already have the shoulder seams of your garment sewn up. And now I have the armband pieces and I've folded them in half with the right sides together. We're going to sew along this short edge here, but we're going to start and stop a 1/2 inch from each edge. So what I normally do is place a pin at what I think 1/2 inch is, and then I measure it and then adjust as needed. So that's a little bit shorter than 1/2 inch, so I'm just going to fix that. And that's pretty good. And then I'll pin the other end. And that's good too. So I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance between these two pins. So just in the center part of this piece. Okay, so you can now see that I have sewn that seam. It's just in the center part of that edge. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this seam allowance open. It's really important that you press all the way to the end and maintain an accurate seam allowance as you do that. So I have that pressed open. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it together with the wrong sides together, so matching that seam together and just folding that loop in half. So it's half the width it was. So now we have what looks like an armband. So I'm going to press that in place. What I want to do is just make sure that I am matching my seams on both sides, and you'll notice that there's this kind of V opening here. So we want to make sure that stays there and nicely aligned. So I'm going to do that and I'll be back. Okay, I've pressed that and we have a nice armband here. So here's the body of my garment. This is actually a wool and I'm lining it, so I haven't finished the edges of the shoulder seam, but you will have done that as per the instructions. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the notch in the side seam. This is the underarm notch. And I'm going to take the V of my armband and I'm going to match it to that notch. So you can see I have my notch there and my V here, and I'm going to pin that in place. So I have 3 raw edges on top of each other. I have the garment and then the 2 raw edges of my armband. Then I'm going to just keep matching those edges, so the other side of the armband's over here, and continue pinning. Just being careful not to stretch anything, but it shouldn't stretch too much because everything's fairly on the straight grain. If you happen to cut these armbands on the bias, like if you're doing it to get stripes or checks or something, then you'll have to be really careful you're not stretching it. Yeah. So now I've crossed over that shoulder seam. I'm just continuing to pin. So I think the really unusual part of this application is that you're pinning a round band, like a finished band, to a still flat open garment. So I'm going to keep pinning around and I'm going to match this underarm notch to the V again. So I've actually got the 2 V's here. I need to ease that in, so I'll go back and do that. So I'm pinning here, and then I've got some ease I need to deal with, so Just going to ease that in. Great. So I'll show you how I'll sew it. So here's how I'm going to sew it. You can see I have that V lined up here. I'm just going to get that under the press foot and line up right in that apex there. And I'm going to start my stitching right on that apex. Not the easiest way to sew with a camera in between you and what you're trying to sew, but I'll do my best. So you can see I'm almost round at the beginning again. I'm going to finish where I started off, making sure I don't overlap at all. So I've completed that sleeve band, and you can see right in this apex, my stitching's matching exactly in the middle, and I haven't overlapped it at all. So now what I need to do is finish the edges. What I'm going to do is keep that sleeve band folded to the inside, and I'm going to start from the hem edge of one of the side seams, and I'm going to sew from the right sides, sew all the way around, finishing the edge, and all the way around the loop, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to zigzag it because I think it's sometimes easier to see a zigzag the technique than on an overlocker. Plus, this is a wool and I'm going to line it, so I don't really need to serge it. Okay, so now I'm going to finish that edge of the side seam. So this is the hem edge. This is the right side of the front or the back. And this is the side seam here. So I'm just going to zigzag. You could also overlock or serge. Okay, so you can see that I'm coming near to this V point. It's important that I keep the bottom layer flat, and I'm just going to pull this upper side away so that I don't catch that in my finishing. Just going to ease it through, making sure I don't get any lumps. If you're doing this on the serger, it's really important that you don't cut any holes, so just be careful. Just lifting the presser foot to make sure it's all flat. Okay, so you can see I've almost round back to that V point again. So I'm going to fold the other side. So the side I've already finished, I'm going to fold that out of the way. Right, so you've applied that sleeve band and you've finished the edge, but the side seam is still open. So what we're going to do is keep that sleeve band flipped to the inside and fold it so that this that V thing that you did is on top of each other. Should want to do that by itself anyway. And you'll be able to see pretty clearly where you stop stitching. So that is where you were going to start stitching. I'm going to put a pin in there, but I'm actually not going to use it. I'll take it out. And your aim when you start sewing is to start sewing exactly where you stopped. So you can actually see the lump through the fabric of where that sleeve band ends. Make sure you don't catch any of that. So put your needle down exactly where that is. And even if you even do your back tacking using the hand wheel, then that's fine. So I'm also going to match the hem end, and you could pin through here as well. So you can see I've sewn that side seam, and I started exactly where I finished the armband sewing. So let's see how it looks on the other side. So here we have our armband, and it meets the side seam at a sharp 90-degree angle, which is what I was aiming for. And then you can just check underneath to see if there's a hole or not. In this case, there's not, so that's perfect. Sometimes you get a little tuck or a little hole, and what that means is that you've either not sewn close enough or sewn overlapped it. So if you get a tuck, you've overlapped, and you'll just need to unpick a stitch or two. Let's see the other side. The other side, I've got the tiniest hole, right? So that just means that I need to stitch another stitch. To be honest, that's probably not going to bother me, so I probably won't do it, but you could. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press the side seam open, and what that will do is automatically press the seam allowances of the sleeve band towards the body of the shirt. So I hope this has been helpful, and you've learned a new technique.